Hello, welcome to our Rescue Technician Console training. Thanks so much for joining. My name is Jared, and I'm a member of our customer success team here at LogMeIn, and I will be your trainer today. Today, we'll be covering the Rescue Technician Console. We'll first focus on how to start a session, as well as how to manage an existing session. We will also spend some time reviewing in-session tools and features, and we will wrap up today's training by looking at some advanced features, such as deploying unattended access and the calling card. So let's go ahead and get started. The first step you're going to want to take is to log into your LogMeIn Rescue account. So to do that, you'll navigate to logmeinrescue.com. In the upper right-hand corner, select the login link. Type in your username, your rescue ID, and password, and select continue. If you are set up for SSO, just use the login with SAML SSO option. We'll go ahead and continue on the initial option there. Upon the entrance to your account, you'll notice a few things here. Today, our focus is going to be on the Technician Console. So a couple of things, if you have not already, you will be provided the option to launch the Technician Console, or I should say if you have not already, you should download the Technician Console desktop app. And if you have done that previously, you can also launch the Technician Console. There are multiple ways to take advantage of the Technician Console. You can do that online. However, currently that is accessible only via Internet Explorer. It is recommended to download the desktop app for a better experience, and you would have that installed locally for your use. We have already connected to our Technician Console, so I'm going to go ahead and jump out of this and hop on over to the desktop app. Bear with me a moment. To begin a new session. As indicated, our focus is going to start on how to initiate or start a new session, all right? So to do that, today we are connected to a virtual machine. We will go over in the upper left-hand corner and select the new session option. You'll have a few fields, actually a couple of fields here that you will want to enter in information. You notice that the first one is mandatory. This is the name option. I have an additional field ticket number here, but that is optional. I've created a few custom fields, but again, this is just an optional field. You do not have to have that. We'll go ahead and enter in the first name here. And we will click the Create PIN button. And we have the PIN code here. So if you're working with a customer on the phone, you will simply inform the customer that you'll need to navigate to logmein123.com or support.me and enter in the PIN code 505262. So we're going to go ahead and copy this. We have the luxury of doing that here, connected to a virtual machine, and let me go ahead and pop over to the customer's desktop. Again, have them access either logmein123, give this a moment here for Chrome, or support.me. So they both go to the same location. Go ahead and enter in support.me. And now we will type in the 6-digit code and click the start download button. Once this executable has downloaded, you'll notice in the lower left-hand corner, if you're on a Windows machine here, you'll have the option to open this up. So we're just going to go ahead and double click the executable file there. And now we are basically have begun or have initiated the session with the customer. So this is the customer screen that you were looking at. This particular machine has UAC enabled on their PC. So there are a few prompts we're going to need to navigate through from the customer's perspective, all right? So go ahead and click OK on that first prompt, and you'll have one more. And now you'll notice that the applet has begun and has opened up, and you are currently in a support session with a representative. So we're going to hop back over to the Technician Console and close out this pop-up here. And there are a few things I want to call out in terms of in-session tools and features. We have not yet started the session from the technician's perspective. So it's basically in our queue now. There are a few ways to go about doing that. So we've got this row of options here, this primary menu bar, this toolbar we're going to talk about a little bit. You have the new session button there. We've talked about that. If you are an admin on the account, you can look in a couple of options here. We'll talk about unattended access, connect on LAN. But first of all, we want to start this session because right now it's just waiting in our queue from the technician's perspective. So I'm going to go ahead and start that. You can either right-click here, very similar to any Windows-based environment there, or you can click the somewhat play or start button that you see here above. Go ahead and click start. You'll notice a few things here that are going to pop up on the screen. I am now in an active session, as indicated by the status column here. It's been running for 12 seconds and counting there. You have some options here we'll get into in a moment, but primarily a tab would denote an active session, and you can run multiple tabs or multiple sessions at any given time. So if you had that happening, you would have sessions to the right of the initial session here. So we've just got the one going on right now, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. Heading back up here for this primary toolbar, now that the session is active, if we wanted to at any point in time in the session, we can do that. Simply right-click. You can either end, hold, transfer, share your desktop, invite a technician, push out a survey, or even capture the log and copy some of this to the clipboard if you needed to share some information across from yourself, from your own machine, the technician's machine, to the end user's machine. So at the top here, there's a couple things I want to call out. The computer's icon here would allow you to connect in some alternative ways, all right? The first is unattended access. So the benefit to unattended access, this is more of an advanced feature, but the benefit to unattended access is it allows you to connect to a machine, to an end user that is not physically present at that machine, right? So I'm currently in a session with Jay. At any point in time during the session, I can request access to his machine so that I can later gain access to that same machine when Jay is not present. And, you know, that may be multiple reasons why Jay would not be able to be present, whether he's going on vacation, it's the end of his shift, whatever the case may be. There may be a need for me to connect to that machine at a later point in time. So this allows you the ability to do that. If I log in every single day, I would have this running list of machines that I have at some point in time been granted unattended access to, and I can just come in here, click in these individual machines. If they happen to be online, click connect and be connected into that machine. There's also another option here. It's called connect on LAN or local area network. And based on the machines that are connected to your local area network, if you happen to come into your office, you can click this refresh button here, and it would populate the machines that are available to you on your local area network, and you can simply just connect to those and hop into a session. Now, again, these are more advanced features. We'll talk a little bit more about those as we get into some of the in-session tools, but I just wanted to give you a brief kind of rundown or breakdown of what those features are. If you're an admin, you do have the ability to monitor technicians. I can click this binoculars icon here and get a brief overview of my setup here in terms of my organization. It's got my setup here, my level 3 support, senior support specialists, solution architects, support specialists as well. All these folks are currently offline, but if they were online, I could hop in and connect or monitor each one of these individuals. And within the admin center, the administrators have the ability to either inform a technician that they're being monitored or decide or opt against that. So those are some of the abilities that are only available to admins on the account. Just want to hop over to the virtual machine, make sure we're not logging out of that. Again, this is the end button. You can click that at any point in time. If you needed to hold it for whatever reason, you can hold the session as well. You can transfer sessions also, which is a very handy feature. If you determine that you know, this call needs to go to another department, I've got some handy channels set up here for desktop support, mobile support solutions. I can transfer those sessions onto those queues if necessary, or to individual technicians in particular groups. Put in a brief comment, Click OK, they're transferred right over. You can also share your desktop. This does not always come up, but you do have the ability to share what you're seeing on your screen from the technician's perspective. So there are situations where that might come into play, and you do have the ability to do that. And at any point in time, you can invite a technician in to collaborate. This is a great feature. So if I click the invite technicians button, again, I've got my my organization breakdown here. I can invite any member of these teams to collaborate on this particular session. And the great thing about this is if I decide to bring in a solutions architect, in this case, Chris, I can set what permission or what area I want Chris to be able to provide that level of support. So if I just wanted to kind of restrict his level of support to, say, file manager, the file manager panel, I can just check this off, click OK. Now Chris comes in, he's able to help out, but only with the file manager option here. Okay, so just keep that in mind. This is an ability to provide or allow someone, a member of your team, to collaborate with you in an ad hoc capacity, set permissions for what you need specific help with. All right. Now heading down here to this primary toolbar for this particular session, we've talked a little bit about some of the in-session tools for your ongoing, your active session. And these are some additional options as well. So now we're kind of getting to the heart of session assistance here. So we've established there's an issue with Jay's machine. He needs help. So you've got a couple things here, and I want to call these out because they allow you to kind of identify if you need to either remote in to the machine or launch the desktop viewing session option. You may not need to use these options right away. So you have the file manager option. So if I launch file manager session, you notice that it's connecting. Initially, when I launch any task, the end user is going to have to accept this. So you've got this little handy prompt that pops up on your customer's machine. It says Jared Gillis, the technician, would like to perform one or more options on this computer, including the following. So the end user is going to need to okay this initially before getting going. So we're going to go ahead and okay this and hop back into the technician console. I will say within the admin center, your administrators have the option to either allow that prompt to only display once, meaning the technician only has to the end user only has to okay or authorize that once, or that prompt will be displayed after every task or command that is initiated or asked of the technician. But again, that's something that your admins will be setting up within the admin center. Hopping on over to the file manager. So the file manager is very handy. If you just simply identified you needed, the end user needed help on file management, on the left-hand side, you're looking at the local machine. The local machine would correspond to the technician's machine, and the remote would be the end user or the customer. So if I simply needed to drag and drop a file, I can just drag and drop from one to the other. I have got a test option here. I can simply move this again to the end user's machine. We'll do that real quick, and it simply copies over. I can also right-click any of these files, copy, move, create a new folder, delete, rename, you name it. Pretty much anything that you would generally do from within your own, on your own machine, you can do here. And you've got very similar commands available in the this primary toolbar as well. Now I can end the file manager. You'll notice once I end the file manager option, the session is still active, so that's ongoing. Let's jump over to the System Info tab. Now the System Info tab is very helpful in the sense that it provides a basic snapshot of what the customer's machine is running. So what is their operating system, right? BIOS version, when they last booted up, the physical memory size, some disk drive information, you know, the percentage in use. You may be able to determine quite a bit just from looking at this and identify if this is something that needs to be escalated, you can resolve it right away. That's why I like to call this out, because again, you might not necessarily have to remote right in, all right? You might not have to take full control of keyboard and mouse or view the end user's machine. You might be able to determine what's going on simply by looking at the System Info tab. A very important note here, this is all read only or view only. You'll notice I'm just clicking around, there's nothing I can do here. So This is just read only, just view only. Similar to Task Manager, but with the Task Manager, obviously, it's a lot more interactive. So that's just something that's important to note. Very similar, you can request process information. We'll do that a moment to pop up here. And you'll notice on the left-hand side, any command that I initiate, any task, will populate here as well, and it'll be time-stamped. And this chat log is available after the call. We'll talk a little bit about where that's stored and how you can set it up, but it is very handy to know during a support session what commands, what tasks were completed and initiated. Services, you can request services information as well. We'll give that some time to run. Applications, always very handy to know what applications have been installed on the end user's machine and how large they are, what size they're taking up. Interactive user information. This may be a little more advanced, but then again, you're in the support space, so it may not, and you may need to know this information. All of these tabs, however, again, they're all view only, read only. Moving on, you've got the reboot option. Very important, obviously. We all know how this works. You might have to reboot and reconnect. You've got the normal reboot option, emergency reboot and reconnect, safe reboot, and at any point in time, you can request Windows credentials if you feel you need to elevate that session as well. A more advanced capability from within Rescue is the ability to deploy scripts. So you're looking at the scripts here. It allows you to search scripts. Now, these scripts would have to previously have been, installed into your your space here. You can come up to the tools option here, click manage scripts. You have the ability to either import new scripts or add new here, and you can add those individually if you need to. But once you've done that, you've got the ability here to search for your favorite scripts and actually deploy those out in session. So obviously with scripts, it allows you to be more efficient with your processes there, and you may find there are some standardized actions that need to take place that require the creation of scripts, and you can simply deploy those out during the session. We covered unattended access briefly when we were talking about the primary toolbar here and the computers icon, okay? And we'll look at that a little bit. So I'm in a session with Jay currently, right? So it's been identified that we haven't figured out what's going on with Jay's machine, his applications, whatever the case may be. So we need to set up unattended access. This is where you would go to do that during session. So when you're on a call with a client, with an end user, I should say, and you've established that you need to follow up, you may need to do that when Jay or the end user is not going to be available. So we're going to request access to this machine. The way to do that is through this option here. So I click the unattended access tab. This is going to give me a few options to set it up. The first one is at connection, and it says technician enters administrative credentials at the start of every session, which basically means if I request unattended access to this end user's machine, I can have that if approved or granted for an indefinite period of time. The only caveat is that I would need to enter in administrative credentials at the start of every single session. All right. The other option is I can set this up now, and I can enter in those credentials the first time, and I would have access to Jay's machine for a period of 2 weeks. During that 2-week period, if I went to access his machine, I would not be prompted to enter in credentials, but there is a limit to the period of time that I would have access to that machine. So there will be some information that I will be reviewing or pointing you to if you needed some additional information on this. But unattended access is a very handy feature within the Rescue software. And again, it allows you to access the machine when that end user is not present. And you can put in a brief description, as you can see here. If you've got maybe, I don't know, 8-10 different machines or more that you have access to, you may want to put in a more descriptive breakdown of what that is, a name as well, so you'll know who you are connecting to at any given time. calling card. Calling card is another advanced feature within Rescue. The calling card allows you to basically install an application on the end user's local machine. And when that application is installed, basically your customer is able to initiate a support session at any given time. So what it does, I can install this calling card on your end user's machine, on the customer's machine, and from that point, that customer can initiate a session at any given time. The way that the standardized way, or the traditional way to receive support through Rescue, is the technician is really reaching out or generating a PIN code and directing the end user to say logmein123.com or support.me. If you install the calling card on the customer's machine, they can initiate a session. So that's kind of the benefit there. Once it's installed, there's no need to download the Rescue applet at the start of any support session. So that's there are a lot of benefits to using that. There are also some caveats. You really want to kind of think about the specific use case that might warrant the use of a calling card. But again, it is a great feature, more of an advanced feature, but depending on your use case, it may be something that you might want to look into. And there will be some additional information that's available through our knowledge base and through our PDF or our user guides on this particular feature. All right, moving on to the history and notes. Obviously, documentation is king, and you want to make sure you document every support case as thoroughly as possible. You've got your history here. At any point in time during the session, I can click the Add Edit Notes button, add my notes for that specific session. And you'll notice that I have, generally you'll have a history of the support sessions that you have run, and you can simply click in here. I'm not showing mine here, but you can simply click in this area here. It will actually populate a list of recent sessions, and you can select the notes for that particular session and view those at a later point in time as well. So that's the primary toolbar that you will see, this main menu, I should say, for a current session. But the most widely used, obviously, is this customer desktop option. So we click back over to customer desktop. So make sure I'm not being logged out of my virtual machine here. I'll hop back over to the tech console. You have the launch remote control session or the launch desktop viewing session option. Viewing session is exactly what it sounds like. I'm able to simply view the end user's machine. So I have clicked the view session option. I'm just looking at the customer's machine right now, all right? So basically, you know, if the customer moves around, I'm able to see what they're seeing, and I can, you know, audibly direct them, help navigate, you know, where they need to go on the screen, okay? But if it's determined that we need to kind of move this along, elevate it, and take full control of keyboard and mouse, I can do that. Before we get into that, let me show you a couple things here. Obviously, this view option is within the interface here. So you've got this window. It takes up about 3/4 of the space here on your screen, I would say. But if you needed to expand that, you can click the full screen mode. We'll do that here, and that'll make it a little bit larger for you. Now, I did click this little handy pin toolbar from window option here. The reason I did that is because give this about 5 seconds or so, and this little toolbar will disappear on you. So you can click the pin toolbar from window, and that'll stay visible to you and not disappear on you. Be like, where did that go? So we're going to go ahead and exit full screen mode. Talk a bit about a few other settings here. You can configure view settings. So if I were to do that, I can adjust the color quality. By default, mine is set to low for any faster response times. You can kind of pull that back to very low, medium quality, high, whatever the case may be. This is pertains specifically to this session with Jay. So depending on your customer's bandwidth, their connection, that may change. You may need to adjust that. Moving on, there's a couple things we have here. You've got this double monitor option. And basically what that means is Rescue will identify if there are multiple monitors set up, okay? In my case, I don't have that, so it's grayed out. I'm not able to switch between monitors here, but you'll notice that if it is identified, you'll have the option here to switch between screens. You can improve or increase the size within the primary interface window here by 5 interval percentage points if you would like. And you can also enable the magnifier if that helps. There are a few options that are grayed out, which means they're not available to you. This is Control-Alt-Delete, this is Task Manager, and this is Keyboard Layout. So these are all available once you remote in to an end user's machine. Of course, these would require elevated permissions, right? So you do not have access to those during a screen view only mode, all right? So we're only viewing this end user's machine. Obviously, we cannot interact, right, with Task Manager or push out the Control-Alt-Delete command. You do have some very basic annotation options here. You can turn the whiteboard on. So if I were to do that, I can just simply draw on the screen. The benefit to that is the customer does see this, and I can simply take a quick screen shot or just record what I'm seeing here, what I'm kind of pointing out. So if you're in a current session, your customer indicates Jay is saying, hey, this is what I'm seeing here. You can highlight that, maybe draw a circle around something, take a quick screenshot, and maybe add that to your ongoing documentation on that session, or send that to the customer. Whatever the case may be, you're able to do that from within a session. And you can also use the laser pointer option. So laser pointer, if this is your preference, you just kind of point around, and maybe that helps you direct the customer on where to go. So we're just going to close out the desktop view only mode. Again, the session remains active, and we're going to launch remote control. All right. So launching remote control, it does what you think it does. It allows you to take full control of keyboard and mouse here. So if I wanted to simply move their browser around, okay, I have basically taken over full control of keyboard and mouse here, and I can do what I need to do to assist this customer to the best of my abilities. Now you'll notice that a few options did open up for you. I needed to push out Control-Alt-Delete. I can simply do that there, right? Or go back. Very similarly, Task Manager, I can start Task Manager. You'll notice that'll be opened up there. And you'll notice that the Task Manager, some of the tabs or commands or capabilities from within Task Manager mirror some of the ones you saw in File Manager, but the big takeaway is obviously Task Manager is a lot more interactive. You can do much more with Task Manager. But let's go ahead and close that out. All right. And that really kind of runs the gamut of what you're able to do from within the remote control option. I think the few things I want to call out here, the main differences are interactivity, right? You're able to push out Control-Delete, start Task Manager. Obviously, you can move anything around here that you wanted to, just as if you were physically present at that customer's machine. You're taking over full keyboard, control of the keyboard and mouse in that respect, and that allows you to really assist that customer if it's determined that you need to do that. As you'll notice here, Rescue is quite robust. So there are handy features, handy resources that we're going to talk about here momentarily that you can really kind of get into. I think the Rescue Technician Console user guide is 127 pages or so. I'll show that to you. So it really does go into deeper detail on each one of these features individually. And if you have the opportunity, obviously take a look at that and get more comfortable with those options here. There are some options I want to highlight on the left-hand side here. So you've got the options tab. So if you needed to change your password, you can do that here. You forget rescue login credentials is also another option for you. If you were to check this off, however, that would mean if you opened up the Technician Console, say tomorrow, you're going to need to enter in your login credentials again. At any point in time, you can configure your audible alerts for whatever happens. If you've got new sessions coming in, if a customer disconnects, you're able to set those here. The color scheme, I have it for purposes of the demonstration. I like to leave that on light, but if you wanted to change that to dark, you're able to change that as well. Just switch that back. The clipboard option, the clipboard is very handy. Obviously, you're able to use some of those shortcut keys. If you're able to do that, copy, paste, cut, whatever the case may be, from the technician's machine, your machine, to the end user's machine. This is the default color quality. So this would mean that every new session that came in would default to this level. However, again, as indicated, within each individual session, you can set this setting as well. Hopping on over to tools, we talked a little bit about managing scripts. You're definitely able to do that here. You can add new scripts. You can import scripts as well. There is a great option here to manage predefined replies. So in the support world, you might deal with a frequent request, and perhaps there is some canned responses that you want to have already set up in your within the Rescue software, and you're able to do that. You can add new ones here, simply name them, put in the brief content there, whether it's a reply, a URL, or if you have those available in a file, you can import them in as well. And what that does is if I were to be working with a client or a customer, I have the option down below. So for instance, I'm going to give you an example of send as URL. So I can send, I've got Google here. So we've determined that that's where we want to direct them. Instead of typing it out, worrying about making a mistake or whatever the case may be, I can just simply select that which had been predefined. I had previously set this up, send it to my end user, and what you'll see is that Google opened up. Now, I don't know why the language settings are not working for me here, but you get the point. You're able to push that out, and that might be a huge benefit to you if you think about it, like if there's a knowledge base or if there's something you want to, someplace you want to direct them to for some additional information, if it's a long URL, and there is an opportunity that might take some time if you instead of trying to communicate it audibly and having a rehash or the actual URL. It's a great little feature. Similarly, you have the ability to send a predefined reply as well. So I've got one name titled goodbye. So if I just select this, it just simply says thanks for your time. So I can go ahead and send that, and that's the reply there. Now you might have quite a few based on if you say you need to put a customer on hold or you can think of all sorts of scenarios where that would really come into play. So take advantage of these. They give you the ability to make your process much, much more efficient. And from within the chat window, you can always send files directly from your local computer as well. So again, we focus on reviewing some of the in-session tools, some of the features that we have available to you. We've talked about the unattended access as more of an advanced feature, calling card, and those are some great features that you might want to look into a little further. And they may not apply to you initially as you're using Rescue, but you'll find as you get more familiar with the product and maybe your support environment kind of expands and the use of that you might start to use some of these more advanced features. Okay, so I hope we were able to provide you an in-depth look at some of the features within Rescue today. We're going to talk a little bit, we're going to step back into our presentation here, talk about some of the resources that are available to you, and we're just going to close out this session for you. So let me go ahead and end this if you want to close that out. You'll notice it'll pop back over to your screen here. So before we hop out of the Technician Console, I want to highlight the Home button. So you've got this Home button. You'll notice a few things here. At any point in time, if you needed live training, there is live training available to you. You've got this article here on how to register for that. And these are some of the guides that are available to you, some updated information on in this case, the Technician Console for Mac, some of the release notes, so on and so forth. You can click the support link and that'll open up our knowledge base. Any point in time you want to go to community as well, you can do that. And as a matter of fact, while we're speaking of that, let me hop over to some of those options here for you. So we're going to look at some of the materials here. You've got the rescue customer support page. You do have our rescue YouTube page and the technician console user guide, our LogMeIn rescue community page, the administrative user guide, along with the customization and integration guide. And those are just a few. First, let's take a look at the knowledge base. So obviously with rescue, it being quite robust, you're gonna want to access our support site at any point in time. So this is the LogMeIn rescue knowledge base. Here you can search the knowledge base. You've got some of your more popular articles here, the technician console, how to remote into a Mac, whitelisting, you name it, right? So if you needed to search that, you can use the search bar there. Some handy videos that might apply to you specifically, some of the utilities, reboot and reconnect, you name it, it would be available to you from here, okay? You also have the LogMeIn technician, rescue technician console. Again, this is about 114 pages, but it's extremely handy, very in-depth, from the system requirements to information on, setting up calling card or unattended access. So keep that in mind. It is available from either within the product or going to the knowledge base as well. This is the administrator's guide. So if you are an administrator and you happen to be interested in looking more on the administrative guide, this is the PDF. It's a PDF form, and you would want to take a deep dive into this. We also have the LogMeIn rescue customization and integration overview. So there are many means to customize your environment. So you can brand the calling card, the rescue applet, the pin entry form, the channel form, or instant chat. So to just kind of make it your own, make it your business's own. And this is more advanced in terms of some of the knowledge. There's some of the web-based tools that you would use, some of the programming languages that you might want to be aware of. They mentioned JavaScript, CSS, HTML. So just keep that in mind, but there is an ability to do that. And then of course, any integrations that might be important to you, maybe not now, but maybe in the future, from Salesforce to ServiceNow, right? So if you needed additional information on that, you would want to head over to the LogMeIn Rescue Customization Integration Guide, and this is all available online as well. And of course, lastly, is the LogMeIn community. So if you find that you are not receiving an answer, maybe you put in a case of support, or if there's something just unique you want to kind of take a look at, perhaps you will find your answer or some direction within the community. So these are all your peers. These are all folks that have used Rescue for some period of time or are actually new to the software. You can always come in here, subscribe, and take advantage of some of these ongoing discussions or create a new one, start your own topic. So I would recommend really taking advantage of this. Communities in most environments are very helpful, especially when you're talking about software. So take a look at that when you have the opportunity. All right. So heading back on over to our slide, we did talk about the materials here that you would want to take a look at. We have run through a support session within Rescue, talked about some of those in-session features and tools, some of the more advanced options, and hopefully pointed out these helpful materials that are available to you that will just supplement what we've talked about and what we've looked at today. So I would ask that you keep that in mind at any point in time. If you have questions, head on over to support.logmeinc.com. You can also head over to the YouTube channel. So you've got youtube.com/logmeinusa. In addition to that, there is live support at the number listed there on the screen, and you can receive that technical billing or any general questions that aren't addressed by the support site. Feel free at any time to call our live support during the hours listed on the page there. It's not listed here on the slide, but if you go to the actual help site knowledge base, you'll see those times listed pertaining to the area that you're requesting support from. All right. So obviously, as we would like to say, at the close of every session, every training session we hold for rescue. We wish you the best using the software. I'd like to personally thank you for joining today's session. We hope you really got the most out of our training today, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much. Goodbye.